Captain Lee Dong-wook stood on the bridge of the UES horizon and watched the stars. His ship was small compared to the military vessels back on Earth, but it was the best humanity could build. The Horizon had been traveling through space for 3 months, looking for signs of other intelligent life. Today they found more than they expected. "Captain, we have multiple contacts on sensors," said Lieutenant Park Jin-ho from the navigation station. His voice was steady, but Lee could hear the worry underneath. 17 ships, sir, they're big." Lee moved to look at the display screen. The alien ships looked nothing like human vessels. They were long and curved, like giant sea creatures, made of metal. Each one was at least 10 times larger than the Horizon. Strange lights pulsed along their hulls in patterns that hurt to look at. "Are they armed?" Lee asked. "Yes, sir. Heavy weapons. More firepower than our entire home fleet combined." Dr. Park So-young, the ship's science officer, looked up from her instruments. She was young for such an important job, but she was the smartest person Lee had ever met. "Captain, they're scanning us. Very detailed scans. They know everything about our ship now." "Can we contact them?" "I'm trying to decode their communication signals. Give me a few minutes." Lee watched the alien fleet arrange itself in a formation around his small ship. They moved with perfect coordination, like they had done this many times before. The Horizon was completely surrounded. There was no way to run, even if they wanted. "To Sir, incoming transmission," Dr. Park announced. "I can translate it. Put it through." The main screen flickered and showed the face of an alien creature. It had pale blue skin and 3 eyes arranged in a triangle on its face. When it spoke, the words came through the translator in a cold, mechanical voice. "Primitive vessel, you are in violation of Galactic Council space regulations. Identify yourselves and prepare for inspection." Lee straightened his uniform and stepped forward. "This is Captain Lee Dong-wook of the United Earth Ship Horizon. We come in peace and seek peaceful contact with other civilizations." The alien's 3 eyes blinked in sequence. "Earth. Yes, we have heard of your species. You have recently achieved basic faster-than-light travel. Impressive for such a young race, but you are still children playing with dangerous toys. We would like to establish diplomatic relations with your government." The alien made a sound that might have been laughter. "I am Ambassador Velthar of the Nexari Empire, speaking for the Galactic Council. Your species will be evaluated for membership status. If you prove worthy, you may be allowed to continue existing under our protection." Lee felt his jaw tighten. The alien's tone was like a parent talking to a small child. "We appreciate your interest in our species, Ambassador. However, Earth is a sovereign world. We seek friendship, not protection." "Sovereignty?" Velthar's eyes widened in what looked like surprise. "Your entire species controls only one small world in a backwater system. You have no colonies, no trade agreements, no military alliances. What sovereignty could you possibly claim?" Dr. Park So-young stepped up beside Lee. "Ambassador, may I ask about your evaluation process? What criteria do you use to judge a species? Your technology level, your military capability, your usefulness to the galactic community, and your willingness to follow established law and order. And if a species refuses to submit to your authority?" Velthar's expression grew cold. "Then they learn the consequences of defying powers greater than themselves. The galaxy is a dangerous place for those without proper protection." Lee could feel the threat behind those words. "We understand you have significant military power, Ambassador, but humanity values freedom above safety. We would prefer to earn our place in the galaxy through our own efforts." "How refreshingly naive," Velthar said. "Your efforts amount to one small exploration vessel with primitive weapons and basic shielding. Our analysis shows your entire species could build perhaps 50 such ships. We have over 10,000 vessels in this sector alone." Lieutenant Park Jin-ho was monitoring the alien ships and whispered urgently, "Captain, they're conducting deep scans of our quantum drive systems. The readings they're getting seem to be confusing them." Dr. Park So-young glanced at her instruments and nodded slightly. Their quantum drive was based on theories that most of Earth's scientists said were impossible. But it worked even if they didn't fully understand why. Ambassador, Dr. Park said carefully, we notice your people seem interested in our propulsion technology. We'd be happy to share some basic principles in the spirit of scientific cooperation. Velthar leaned forward. Your quantum manipulation techniques are unusual. Our scientists would very much like to study them. Consider it part of your evaluation. We're willing to exchange information, but not to simply hand over our technology for nothing in return. You misunderstand your position, Dr. Park So-young. Velthar had somehow learned her name from their scans. You are not in a place to make demands. You have one small ship. We have 17 battle cruisers. The mathematics are quite simple. Lee stepped forward again. With respect, Ambassador, I think you misunderstand our position as well. We didn't come here to start a fight, but we also didn't come here to surrender our independence. Then what did you come here for? To meet our neighbors and learn about the galaxy, to find our place among the stars as equals, not subjects. Velthar was quiet for a long moment. His three eyes studied Lee's face with what might have been curiosity. Equals. An interesting concept. Very few species make such claims when they first encounter the Galactic Council. What happened to those who did? They learned better, or they ceased to exist. The bridge of the horizon fell silent. Every human officer understood the threat clearly now. They were facing a galactic empire that had crushed other species who refused to submit. Dr. Park So-young broke the silence. Ambassador, may I ask, how long the Galactic Council has existed? Over 50,000 Earth years. And how many species are members? 237, at last count. How many species have you encountered that refused membership? Velthar's expression didn't change, but he took longer to answer. That information is not relevant to your evaluation. Lee understood. The Council didn't just invite species to join, they conquered anyone who refused. The fact that they had 237 member species probably meant they had destroyed many others. I think it's very relevant, Lee said. We need to understand what we're dealing with. You are dealing with the supreme authority in this galaxy, Captain. The Council maintains order and peace among the stars. Those who cooperate prosper. Those who resist are removed for the greater good. Removed. Yes. Lee looked around his bridge at his officers. They were all young, all brave, and all probably about to die for standing up to an empire that could destroy their entire world without effort. But none of them looked like they wanted to back down. We'll need time to consider our response. Ambassador, you have one of your days to decide. Submit to evaluation and council authority or face the consequences. My fleet will remain here to ensure you make the correct choice. The communication ended, and the screen went black. Dr. Park, So-young, immediately started working at her station. Captain, I'm detecting some very interesting energy patterns from their ships. They're powerful, but they're also predictable, like they follow very strict patterns. What does that mean? It means they've been using the same technology for a very long time. No innovation, no creativity. They just build bigger versions of the same basic designs. Lieutenant Park looked up from his console. Sir, should I send a message to Earth? Lee thought about it. By the time a message reached Earth, this situation would be over one way or another. But Earth needed to know what they were facing. Yes. Tell them we've made contact with a hostile galactic empire. Tell them. Lee paused, looking out at the alien fleet surrounding them. Tell them humanity is going to need to make some difficult choices very soon. As the message was sent toward Earth at faster than light speed, Lee wondered if his species was ready for what was coming. The aliens saw humans as primitive children with toys they didn't understand. Maybe they were right. But maybe being underestimated was exactly the advantage humanity needed. 3 weeks had passed since the UES Horizon returned to Earth with news of the Galactic Council. The entire planet was in emergency preparation mode. Admiral Choi Min-ho stood in the command center deep beneath the Korean peninsula, watching screens that showed humanity's entire space fleet. It wasn't much to look at. 47 ships total, most of them barely larger than the Horizon. The biggest was the UES Guardian, and it was still tiny compared to what Ambassador Velthar had shown them. Sir, we're getting reports from the Outer Sensor Network, said Captain Yoon Ji-hoon, commander of the experimental vessel UES Phantom. Multiple contacts entering the system. It's a big fleet. Admiral Choi had been expecting this. The Council's message had been clear. Earth had 1 month to prepare for a compliance evaluation. That month was almost up. How many ships? Over 500, sir. They're massive. Engineer Yang Hee-jin looked up from her workstation. She had been working day and night for 3 weeks, preparing humanity's response to the alien threat. Admiral, are we really going to go through with this plan? It's completely untested. Do we have a choice? If we surrender, we become slaves. If we fight conventionally, we get destroyed in minutes. Our only option is to do something they won't expect. Yang nodded, but she still looked worried. The quantum field generators are ready, but I can't promise they'll work exactly as we calculated. We're dealing with theories that most scientists say are impossible. Most scientists said faster than light travel was impossible too, Admiral Choi replied. But Dr. Lim Na-young proved them wrong. Dr. Lim Na-young was the quantum physicist who had designed humanity's FTL drive. Her theories about parallel dimensional layers had seemed crazy at first. Now those same theories might be the only thing standing between humanity and extinction. The main screen showed the alien fleet taking position around Earth. They formed a perfect sphere, completely surrounding the planet. Each ship was the size of a city and bristled with weapons that could destroy continents. Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the alien flagship, reported Communications Officer Lee Soo-jin. Put it through. The screen showed a different alien this time. This one was larger than Ambassador Velthar, with darker blue skin and scars across its face. When it spoke, its voice carried the authority of absolute command. I am Supreme Marshal Kethvar of the 3rd Conquest Fleet. Your evaluation period has ended. You will surrender unconditionally and submit to Council authority, or you will be destroyed. You have 1 hour to decide. Admiral Choi stepped forward. I am Admiral Choi Min-ho of Earth Defense Command. I request a final diplomatic meeting before any decisions are made. Marshal Kethvar's 4 eyes narrowed. Diplomacy? You have nothing to offer and no power to negotiate. What could you possibly say that would interest the Galactic Council? We have information about quantum dimensional physics that your scientists might find valuable. Information that could benefit the entire galaxy. This was a lie, but it was a lie that might buy them time. The aliens had been very interested in human quantum drive technology during the first encounter. You would share this information freely? We would share it under the right circumstances. Marshal Kethvar considered this for a long moment. Very well. You and 2 advisors may come aboard my flagship for this meeting. Any attempt at deception or attack will result in the immediate destruction of your world. Understood. We'll be there in 2 hours. The transmission ended. Admiral Choi turned to his officers. Yang, is the dimensional displacement system ready? As ready as it can be, sir. All ships are equipped with the quantum field generators, but Admiral, if this doesn't work... If it doesn't work, we're all dead anyway. At least this way, we go down fighting. Captain Yoon stepped forward. Sir, request permission to accompany you to the alien ship. Granted. Yang, you're coming too. If they ask technical questions about our quantum technology, you'll need to answer them. 2 hours later, Admiral Choi found himself aboard an alien ship that was bigger than any building on Earth. The corridors were vast and filled with strange lights. Everything was designed for beings much larger than humans. They were escorted to a conference room where Marshal Kethvar waited with several other alien officers. The room was enormous, with a ceiling that disappeared into darkness above. Admiral Choi, Marshal Kethvar said without preamble, present your information. Yang stepped forward with a portable display device. Our quantum drives work by accessing parallel dimensional layers that exist alongside normal space. By shifting partially into these alternate dimensions, we can achieve faster than light travel without violating relativity. The alien scientists in the room leaned forward with interest. One of them, a creature with silver skin and 6 arms, spoke up. Show us the mathematical proofs. Yang displayed a series of equations on her device. They were real equations from Dr. Lim's research. but she had removed the key components that made them work. The aliens would see impressive math but wouldn't be able to replicate it. Fascinating, the silver-skinned alien said. These dimensional calculations suggest possibilities we never considered. How stable are these parallel layers? Very stable, Yang replied. In fact, with the right field generators, it's possible to shift matter partially or completely into alternate dimensional space. Admiral Choi watched the aliens carefully. They were clearly intrigued by the implications of dimensional manipulation, technology, but Marshal Kethvar looked impatient. Enough, the Marshal said. This is interesting research, but it doesn't change your situation. You will share all this information with our scientists, and you will submit to Council authority. Those are not requests. I'm afraid we can't do that, Admiral Choi said calmly. The room fell silent. Every alien in the conference room stared at the three humans in apparent disbelief. Excuse me, Marshal Kethvar said. We can't submit to Council authority. Humanity values freedom too highly to accept slavery, no matter how comfortable that slavery might be. Then you choose extinction. We choose to defend ourselves. Marshal Kethvar made a sound that was definitely laughter this time. Defend yourselves? Admiral, you have 47 small ships. I have 500 battlecruisers. Your entire fleet couldn't destroy even one of my vessels. You're probably right about that, Admiral Choi agreed. But you're making one assumption. That might not be correct. What assumption? You assume we intend to fight you in normal space using conventional tactics? Captain Yoon spoke for the first time. Marshal, you've studied human military history, haven't you? What do you think makes humans dangerous in combat? Nothing makes you dangerous. You're a primitive species with basic weapons. Humans are dangerous because we don't follow the rules, Yoon continued. We don't fight fair. We don't accept limitations that others consider absolute. When we're outgunned, we don't surrender, we change the game. Marshal Kethvar's eyes narrowed. What are you saying? Admiral Choi stood up. We're saying that you have 72 hours to withdraw from this system and leave Earth alone. This is not a negotiation. This is courtesy. The silence in the room was complete. No species in 50,000 years had given the Galactic Council an ultimatum. The idea was so absurd that the aliens couldn't process it. Finally, Marshal Kethvar spoke. You're insane, all of you. Your species has developed some form of mass psychosis. Maybe, Admiral Choi said. Or maybe we understand something about the universe that you don't, Yang added quietly. Some things are better left undiscovered. The alien scientists looked confused by this statement, but Admiral Choi understood. Yang was hinting that humanity's dimensional research had led to discoveries that were both powerful and dangerous. Discoveries that the Council might not want to face. 72 hours, Admiral Choi repeated. After that, we can't guarantee your safety. Marshal Kethvar stood up, his massive form towering over the humans. You cannot guarantee our safety? Admiral, I could have you vaporized where you stand. Yes, you could, but that wouldn't help you understand what happens in 72 hours. The humans were escorted back to their shuttle under heavy guard. As they flew back to Earth, Yang looked worried. Admiral, do you think they believed us? It doesn't matter if they believed us. What matters is that we planted doubt in their minds. They know we have dimensional technology they don't understand. They know humans have a history of doing impossible things when cornered. Captain Yoon checked his watch. 71 hours and 43 minutes until the deadline. Are the ships in position? Yes, sir. All 47 vessels are moving to the asteroid belt as planned. The dimensional field generators are charged and ready. Admiral Choi looked out the shuttle window at the massive alien fleet surrounding Earth. In less than 3 days, those ships would attack and humanity would either survive or cease to exist. Good. Send the final message to all ship commanders. Operation Vanishing Point begins at the deadline. No matter what happens, no one breaks silence until we're ready. As the shuttle descended toward Earth's surface, the countdown to humanity's greatest gamble continued ticking away. Captain Shin Woo-jin stood on the bridge of the UES Mirage and watched the alien fleet move toward Earth. 72 hours had passed since Admiral Choi's deadline, and Marshal Kethvar was making good on his threat to destroy humanity. The human fleet was positioned near the asteroid belt. 47 ships arranged in a defensive formation that looked pitiful compared to the 500 alien battle cruisers approaching them. Every human vessel was outnumbered more than 10 to 1. "Captain, the aliens are broadcasting on all frequencies," reported Lieutenant Bae Soo-hyun from the communication station. "They're demanding our immediate surrender." "Let them demand," Shin replied. "Dr. Lim, what's the status of the dimensional field generators?" Dr. Lim Na-young was aboard the Mirage as part of the final test of her theoretical work. Her quantum dimensional theories had seemed impossible just months ago. Today they would either save humanity or prove that some impossibilities should stay impossible. "All generators are online and synchronized," she reported. "The quantum field matrices are stable. We're ready to initiate dimensional displacement. On your command." "What exactly will happen when we activate the system?" "If my calculations are correct, our ships will shift into parallel dimensional space. We'll still exist, but not in the same reality layer as the aliens. They won't be able to detect us or attack us." "And if your calculations are wrong?" "Doctor?" Lim looked uncomfortable. "If I'm wrong, we'll either explode or get scattered across multiple dimensions simultaneously. Either way, we'll be very dead." Captain Shin nodded. "At least we'll die trying something new." On the main screen, the alien fleet was spreading out into attack formation. Their weapons were charging, creating energy patterns that lit up space, like a deadly aurora. Marshal Kethvar's flagship was at the center, its massive guns aimed directly at the human formation. "Captain, incoming transmission from the alien flagship," Lieutenant Bae announced. "Put it through." Marshal Kethvar appeared. On the screen, his four eyes filled with what looked like genuine disappointment. "Admiral Choi's 72 hours have expired. You have made your choice. Surrender now or be destroyed." Shin activated the communication system that linked all 47 human ships. "This is Captain Shin Woo-jin to all vessels. The enemy has chosen war over peace. They have chosen destruction over coexistence. But they have underestimated what humans will do to protect their freedom." He paused, looking around his bridge at the young officers who had volunteered for this mission, knowing they might not survive it. "Today we show the galaxy that humanity will not be conquered. We show them that some species refuse to kneel, and we show them that the universe still has room for the impossible." Marshal Kethvar's image was still on the screen, and the alien commander looked puzzled by this speech. "Execute Operation Vanishing Point," Shin commanded. Dr. Lim's fingers flew over her control panel, activating systems that had never been tested under combat conditions. "Dimensional field generators activating. Quantum matrix stabilization in progress." Throughout the human fleet, identical scenes were playing out. On every ship, quantum physicists and engineers were pushing the boundaries of known science, attempting something that the Galactic Council's best minds said was impossible. The first sign that something was happening came from the alien sensors. Marshal Kethvar's tactical officer suddenly started speaking urgently in the alien language. "What is it?" the marshal demanded. "Sir, the human ships are generating some kind of field. Energy readings are unlike anything in our database. On the human ships, warning lights began flashing as the dimensional field generators reached full power. The effect was subtle at first. Colors seemed slightly wrong, and the stars looked fuzzy around the edges. "Field stability holding," Dr. Lim reported. "Dimensional barriers are thinning. We're beginning to shift." The Mirage began to feel different. The humming of the engines changed pitch, and there was a strange sensation like falling sideways through space that didn't exist. Marshal Kethvar was watching his instruments with growing alarm. "The human ships are fading. How is that possible?" "Unknown, sir. Their energy signatures are shifting into frequency ranges that our sensors can barely detect." "Are they using some kind of cloaking device?" "No, sir. Cloaking devices hide ships within normal space. These readings suggest the ships are leaving normal space entirely." On the Mirage, the view on the main screen was becoming strange. The alien fleet was still visible, but they looked like shadows or ghosts. The stars themselves seemed to be in different positions. "We're shifting into parallel dimensional space," Dr. Lim announced with wonder in her voice. "It's actually working. We're moving into a layer of reality that exists alongside our normal universe." Captain Shin felt a moment of incredible relief. Then he remembered that this was only the first part of the plan. "Communications. Send the final message on all frequencies." Lieutenant Bay nodded and activated the transmission system. "All frequencies open, Captain." Shin looked directly at the screen, knowing that Marshal Kethvar and the entire alien fleet would receive his words. "Marshal Kethvar, you were given a warning. You chose to ignore it. You assumed that superior numbers and advanced weapons would be enough to conquer humanity. You were wrong. The dimensional shift was accelerating now. The Mirage and the entire human fleet were becoming translucent, like ghosts fading from the physical world. The Galactic Council has ruled the galaxy for 50,000 years by crushing any species that refused to submit. You have destroyed countless civilizations because they dared to want freedom. But you have made one crucial mistake." The alien fleet was firing now, their massive weapons sending streams of energy toward the human ships. But the weapons passed harmlessly through vessels that were no longer fully present in normal space. You assume that because you understand the physics of this universe, no one else could understand physics you've never discovered. You assume that because your science is advanced, it must be complete. You were wrong about that too. Dr. Lim was monitoring her instruments with fascination. "Captain, we're completely shifted now. We exist in parallel dimensional space. The aliens can see us, but we're not in the same reality layer anymore. Their weapons can't touch us. Humanity has spent its entire history being told that things were impossible." Shin continued his broadcast. "We were told that humans would never fly, that we would never reach the stars, that we would never travel faster than light. We were told that dimensional physics was pure fantasy. We proved all of those assumptions wrong. The alien fleet was in chaos now. Their sensors were screaming with readings that made no sense according to their understanding of science. Ships that should exist were becoming mathematical impossibilities. Today, we're proving one more assumption wrong. We're proving that the Galactic Council is not invincible. We're proving that species who refuse to surrender can find ways to survive that you never imagined." Marshal Kethvar was shouting orders that his crew couldn't follow. "How do you attack an enemy that exists in a different layer of reality? How do you conquer ships that have stepped outside the normal universe? Remember this day," Shin concluded. "Remember that you were warned. Remember that humanity offered you peace and you chose war. Remember that when you had the chance to coexist with a free species, you chose to try to destroy us instead." The human ships were almost completely invisible now, existing in a dimension parallel to normal space but separate from it. They could see the aliens, but the aliens were seeing them fade away like ghosts returning to whatever realm ghosts came from. And remember this: the next time you encounter a species that tells you something is impossible, you might want to listen more carefully, because the universe is much larger and stranger than your council has ever imagined. The transmission ended. The 47 ships of humanity's fleet completed their dimensional shift and vanished completely from normal space, leaving behind only quantum echoes that made alien instruments scream with impossible readings. Marshal Kethvar stared at empty space where a moment before there had been an entire enemy fleet. His weapons officers were reporting that their targets had simply ceased to exist. His science officers were frantically trying to explain sensor readings that violated every known law of physics. For the first time in 50,000 years, the Galactic Council had encountered something they couldn't understand, couldn't predict, and couldn't control. The human fleet hadn't been destroyed or captured. It had simply stepped outside of reality and disappeared. In the command center on Earth, Admiral Choi received confirmation that Operation Vanishing Point had succeeded. Humanity's fleet was safe in dimensional space and the aliens were left facing the impossible. "Phase 1 complete," he announced to his staff. "Now we wait and see how they react to meeting a species that refuses to play by their rules." 3 months had passed since the human fleet vanished, and Marshal Kethvar was no closer to understanding what had happened. He stood in the science laboratory aboard his flagship, surrounded by the Galactic Council's most brilliant researchers. None of them could explain how 47 ships had simply stopped existing. "Report," he demanded. Chief Science Officer Zektar, a tall creature with crystalline skin, gestured to a holographic display showing sensor recordings from the day of the vanishing. "We have analyzed the data from every possible angle. The human ships generated some form of quantum field that allowed them to shift into what can only be described as parallel dimensional space. That's impossible. Dimensional manipulation on that scale requires energy levels that would destroy any ship attempting it. That's what our physics says, yes. But the humans clearly achieved it somehow." Marshal Kethvar studied the recordings. Again. The human ships had become translucent, like ghosts, before disappearing completely. Their energy signatures had shifted into frequency ranges that Galactic Council science said couldn't exist. "What do we know about human dimensional research?" Zektar activated another display showing recovered data from Earth's academic networks. They have been studying quantum dimensional theory for decades. Most of their own scientists considered it theoretical fantasy until recently. "Show me their lead researcher." The display showed an image of Dr. Moon Jak-young, a middle-aged human woman with short black hair and intelligent eyes. Her academic record was impressive, but her theories had been dismissed by most human scientists until the development of faster-than-light travel. According to our analysis, Dr. Moon theorized that reality exists in multiple layers or dimensions that occupy the same space, but at different quantum frequencies. She believed it was possible to shift matter between these layers. And the other human scientists? They thought she was crazy, right up until her theories started working. Marshal Kethvar felt a chill run through his body. The Galactic Council's entire power structure was based on technological superiority. If humans had developed science that the Council couldn't understand or counter, the implications were terrifying. "Have you found any trace of the missing ships?" "None. They exist in a dimensional layer that our sensors cannot penetrate. For all practical purposes, they might as well be in a completely different universe." On Earth, Captain Oh Sung-min sat in a hidden observation post built into the side of a mountain. His job was to monitor alien activity in the solar system and report back to Earth Defense Command. What he had observed over the past 3 months was both encouraging and worrying. The aliens were scared. "Captain, we're receiving another data burst from the Dimensional Monitoring Station," reported Sergeant Kim Bo-Ra from the communications desk. The Dimensional Monitoring Station was humanity's greatest secret. While the aliens searched for the missing fleet, human scientists were tracking their ship's progress through parallel dimensional space. The fleet still existed, but in a layer of reality that the aliens couldn't detect. "What's the status of our ships?" "All vessels remain stable in dimensional space. Life support is functioning normally. The crews report no adverse effects from extended dimensional displacement." This was the most encouraging news. Dr. Moon's theories had predicted that humans could survive in parallel dimensional space, but they had never tested it for months at a time. The fact that the crews were healthy meant that humanity's secret weapon was sustainable. "Any change in alien search patterns?" "They've expanded their search to include neighboring star systems. They seem to think our ships might have used some kind of advanced FTL drive to escape to another system entirely." Captain O smiled grimly. The aliens were looking for the human fleet in normal space, never imagining that the ships were still right there in the same location, just in a different layer of reality. "Sir, we're also picking up increased communication traffic between alien vessels. The encryption is too complex for us to decode, but the volume suggests they're very worried about something." Meanwhile, aboard Marshal Kethvar's flagship, Emergency, meetings were being held at all hours. The disappearance of the human fleet had implications that reached far beyond one small species in a backwater system. "The other council races are asking questions," reported Admiral Vexthon, the Marshal's second-in-command. "They want to know how humans achieved dimensional manipulation technology that our best scientists say is impossible." "What are you telling them?" "That the situation is under investigation. But rumors are spreading throughout the fleet. Some crews are beginning to wonder if humans have access to scientific knowledge that we lack." This was Marshal Kethvar's greatest fear. The Galactic Council maintained order through the absolute belief that Council science was superior to all others. If that belief wavered, the entire power structure could collapse. Double our research efforts. I want our best physicists working around the clock to understand human dimensional technology. Sir, we've recovered some human research. Data from their academic networks, the mathematical proofs are disturbing. Disturbing how? Admiral Vexthon activated a holographic display showing human equations related to dimensional physics. These calculations suggest possibilities that our science has never considered. They imply that reality is far more complex than we believed. Marshal Kethvar studied the equations, but most of them were beyond his understanding. Are you saying that human science might be more advanced than ours? I'm saying that human science might be exploring areas that we never imagined existed. They're not necessarily more advanced, but they're thinking in directions we never considered. On Earth, Dr. Ro Jinwoo sat in his laboratory reviewing the final calculations that had made Operation Vanishing Point possible. As one of Dr. Moon's former students, he had helped develop the theoretical framework for dimensional displacement. The irony, he said to his research assistant, is that the aliens are looking for advanced technology. They assume that dimensional manipulation requires some kind of super advanced equipment. But it doesn't? Not really. The hard part isn't the technology. The hard part is accepting that the impossible might be possible. Once you accept that reality has multiple layers, building a dimensional field generator is just engineering. This was humanity's secret advantage. Human scientists had always been willing to explore ideas that seemed impossible. They had built their entire scientific tradition on questioning assumptions that others took for granted. The aliens have spent 50,000 years perfecting their understanding of physics. They know exactly how the universe works. The problem is they're wrong about some fundamental things. Back in space, Marshal Kethvar was receiving reports from exploration fleets that had been sent to other systems to search for the missing human ships. Every report was the same, no trace of the vanished vessels. Sir, reported his communications officer, we're receiving a priority transmission from the Galactic Council. They're sending a special investigation team. What kind of investigation team? Scientists and military analysts. They want a full report on human capabilities. Marshal Kethvar felt his career prospects dimming. The Council did not look kindly on commanders who lost entire enemy fleets without explanation. Worse, he was beginning to suspect that he hadn't lost the human ships at all. They were still out there somewhere, planning their next move. Sir, should we continue the search? Marshal Kethvar looked out at the empty space where the human fleet had vanished 3 months ago. His instruments showed nothing but vacuum and distant stars, but he had the unsettling feeling that 47 enemy ships were somehow still there, watching and waiting. Continue the search, he ordered, and send a message to the Council. Tell them that humanity may represent a threat unlike anything we've encountered before. What kind of threat, sir? A species that refuses to accept limitations we consider absolute. A species that can make the impossible happen simply because they don't believe it's impossible. As the alien fleet continued its fruitless search, the human observation posts on Earth recorded every move they made. The aliens were learning that there were things in the universe they didn't understand. Soon, they would learn that some of those things were very dangerous to species who had grown too comfortable with their own power. 6 months after the vanishing, Marshal Kethvar made the decision that would haunt him for the rest of his life. Standing on the bridge of his flagship, he stared at the planet Earth floating peacefully in space below. Begin the colonization, he ordered. The Galactic Council had declared humanity extinct. No species could survive 6 months in whatever impossible dimension the human fleet had disappeared into. The Council wanted Earth's resources and strategic location, so they had sent colonization ships to claim the empty world. Sir, colonization fleet is moving into position, reported his tactical officer. 300 civilian vessels carrying 2 million colonists. Marshal Kethvar watched the massive colony ships descend toward Earth's surface. Each ship was the size of a city and carried everything needed to establish a new Galactic Council world. Within a year, Earth would be transformed into another standard Council planet. Any signs of human survivors? None, sir. The planet appears completely abandoned. All major cities are empty. It's like the entire species just vanished. This was partly true. Most of Earth's population had been evacuated to hidden underground facilities or off-world settlements. The surface cities were empty, but humanity was far from extinct. Deep beneath the Korean peninsula, Admiral Choi Min-ho watched the alien colonization on his command screens. "Are our people in position?" "Yes, sir," replied Captain Han Mi-jin, now commander of the Earth Defense Corps. "All evacuation sites are secure. The aliens have no idea that most of our population survived. And the dimensional fleet? Still stable in parallel space. Captain Shin reports all ships are ready to return to normal dimensions on your command." Admiral Choi had been waiting 6 months for this moment. The aliens had declared humanity extinct and were now trying to steal Earth itself. It was time to show them how wrong they were about human extinction. "Director Im, is the demonstration ready?" Director Im Sang-ho, head of the newly formed Dimensional Warfare Division, nodded grimly. "All systems are prepared. When our fleet returns to normal space, they'll have capabilities that will redefine what the aliens think is possible." "Good. Send the recall signal." In parallel dimensional space, Fleet Admiral Ko Young-soo received the signal he had been waiting for. The human fleet had spent 6 months in a dimension that existed alongside normal reality but separate from it. They had used that time well. "All ships, this is Admiral Ko. Prepare for dimensional return. We're going home." Throughout the 47-ship fleet, crews prepared for the reverse of the process that had hidden them from alien sensors. But they weren't returning as the same ships that had vanished 6 months ago. "Sir," reported the tactical officer aboard Ko's flagship, the UES Transcendent, "all vessels report enhanced dimensional systems are online." "Enhanced?" "During our time in parallel space, our engineers learned how to manipulate dimensional barriers in ways we never imagined. We can now exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. We can phase in and out of normal space at will. We can project weapons across dimensional barriers." Admiral Ko smiled. Humanity had used their 6 months of hiding to become something the galaxy had never seen before. "Begin dimensional return. Let's go show our guests that reports of humanity's death have been greatly exaggerated." The first sign that something was wrong came from the alien colonization fleet's sensors. Energy readings that had been impossible 6 months ago were suddenly appearing throughout the solar system. "Marshal," the science officer called urgently, "we're detecting massive quantum disturbances. The readings are similar to what we recorded when the human ships vanished." Marshal Kethavar felt ice form in his veins. "Where?" "Everywhere, sir. The disturbances are occurring at the exact locations where the human ships disappeared." On his command screen, Marshal Kethavar watched in horror as space itself began to ripple. 47 points of light appeared in the darkness, growing brighter and more solid with each passing second. "Impossible," he whispered. "They've been gone for 6 months. Nothing can survive that long in parallel dimensional space." "Sir, the human ships are rematerializing. All 47 vessels are returning to normal space. But these weren't the same ships that had vanished. The human fleet that emerged from dimensional space looked different. Their hulls seemed to shift and blur at the edges, as if they weren't quite solid. Strange energy patterns danced along their surfaces like captured lightning. "Sir, incoming transmission from the human fleet." Marshal Kethavar straightened his uniform with shaking hands. "Put it through." The screen showed Admiral Ko Young-soo, but there was something different about him. His image seemed to flicker occasionally, as if he was broadcasting from multiple dimensions at once. "This is Fleet Admiral Ko Young-soo of the Earth Dimensional Fleet. I'm addressing the alien forces currently attempting to colonize our world. Marshal." Kethavar found his voice. "Admiral Ko, our sensors showed your entire fleet was destroyed 6 months ago." "Our fleet was never destroyed, Marshal. We simply stepped outside of your reality and waited for you to reveal your true intentions. Now that you've shown us what the Galactic Council does to worlds it declares extinct, we're back to set the record straight. Your species is primitive. Your technology is basic. You cannot threaten the Galactic Council." Admiral Ko's expression remained calm. "Marshal, I'm going to give you one final warning. just as Admiral Choi did 6 months ago. Remove your colonization fleet from our system immediately, or face the consequences of underestimating humanity. And if I refuse, then you'll learn what we discovered during our 6 months in parallel dimensional space. On cue, the human fleet began to demonstrate abilities that violated everything the aliens thought they knew about physics. Some ships became translucent while remaining fully functional. Others split into multiple copies of themselves. Several vessels fired weapons that passed through normal space and struck targets across dimensional barriers. "This is impossible," Marshal Kethver said. Director Im Sang-ho appeared beside Admiral Ko on the transmission. "Every species you've encountered built their technology on your established physics, Marshal. Humans never accepted limitations we didn't set ourselves." "What? Are you?" "We're what happens when a species refuses to believe that impossible things are impossible. We spent 6 months learning to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. We can phase in and out of your reality at will. We can strike you from dimensions you can't even detect." To demonstrate, one of the human ships completely vanished from normal space, then reappeared behind the alien flagship. Its weapons fired across dimensional barriers, striking the flagship's shields from a direction that should not have existed. "Your weapons cannot touch us in dimensional space," Admiral Ko continued. "But our weapons can reach you from dimensions your shields cannot protect against. We have become something new, Marshal. Something your empire has never faced before." The alien colonization fleet was in complete panic. Their sensors could barely track the human ships, which seemed to exist in several dimensions at once. Weapons that had never failed against any enemy were useless against vessels that could step outside of reality. "What do you want?" Marshal Kethvar asked. "We want you to leave our system and never return. We want you to declare Earth a forbidden world, and we want you to take a message back to your Galactic Council." "What message?" Admiral Ko leaned forward, and for a moment his image solidified into sharp focus. "Tell them that humanity has transcended the limitations of normal space-time. Tell them we exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Tell them that any attempt to attack Earth will be met with weapons they cannot understand, defend against, or counter." Director Im added, "Tell them that the age of the Galactic Council's absolute supremacy is over. There are now species in this galaxy who have moved beyond your physics, beyond your understanding, and beyond your control." The demonstration continued for an hour. Human ships appeared and disappeared at will. They fired weapons from impossible angles. They existed in multiple locations simultaneously. Everything the aliens had believed about the fundamental laws of physics was proven wrong. Finally, Admiral Ko delivered the final message that would echo through the galaxy for generations. "For 50,000 years, the Galactic Council has maintained power by convincing species that your science was complete, your understanding perfect, your technology supreme. You were wrong. The universe is far stranger and more wonderful than your empire ever imagined. Humanity has become something new. We are no longer bound by the same dimensional limitations that constrain normal matter. We exist in parallel space alongside your reality, but we are not subject to your rules. Take your colonization fleet and go. Do not return to this system. And remember that the next time you encounter a species that claims impossible things are possible, you might want to listen more carefully." The transmission ended. The alien colonization fleet began an immediate and panicked retreat from Earth's solar system. Marshal Kethvar filed a report with the Galactic Council that would change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. Humanity had not just survived the Council's attempt at conquest. They had evolved beyond it. They had become something that existed partially outside of normal reality, something that could strike from dimensions the Council couldn't access or defend.